And now I would like to present the next two speakers, which are Ilaria Perla and Petra. They are both of them represent the partners of the EU SME Centre. Petra is representing VOCA Mechelen-Kempen and Ilaria Enterprise Estonia. And they are here actually to share their expertise in two topics that we believe are quite interesting for both European SMEs and business support organizations, which are the organization of online or virtual B2B matchmaking and trade missions. This is also aligned with what Rosanna was mentioning before. As you know, the borders are quite closed right now, but we still want to help companies get prepared so that when the borders open, hopefully middle next year, everybody can continue their business or even be even more prepared than before the crisis. For this purpose, we have these two guest speakers today. Petra is International Business Development Manager with VOCA Mechelen-Kempen. She's graduated in Communication Management and Languages. And she immersed herself in China since 2010, same as the EU SME Centre, and graduated with great distinction in the second edition of the Understanding China. She was the member also of the jury in 2012 and participated in the course ever since. Great follower of the program. Thank you very much for that, Petra. Petra has notions of Mandarin, and she has organized trade missions to several first and second tier cities. Ilaria, also, she's export advisor at Enterprise Estonia, and she's actually a former colleague of the EU SME Centre. She has been living and working in China since 2012. Her role now as trade advisor of Enterprise Estonia helps her to guide Estonian companies through the complexity of the Chinese market. She has worked for EU projects, as I mentioned, establishing and facilitating trade dialogues between the European and Chinese businesses. So I will leave the floor to both of you, and please, if any questions, submit them through the Q&A panel so that we can help you coordinate at the end of the session. Petra, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Lara. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to share the best practice with the audience. I'm very happy to be a speaker for the Understanding China training, because I've been following the EU SME Centre and the Understanding China program, as you mentioned, already since the beginning. So I'm a big fan. I have made a slide presentation, so I think I will share it myself, Laura. I'm just going to.
Yes, I think it's easier if you just work through it.
Yeah, okay, no problem. I will share it immediately. If it works, normally it works easily. Just a second, almost there. Okay. Here we go. You see my slides?
Yes.
Okay.
We see them.
All right. Good. Once again, good morning, everyone. The agenda, you made a small agenda just to make sure you give it an overview. So we organized a virtual trade mission to Hainan. So I will show you the program and what it's all about, and how we made the promotion, how we try to reach out to our companies. And we also organized some press attention, which we got, and very nice ones. And then I give you the advantages and disadvantages of organizing a virtual trade mission, the evaluation after, the feedback we got from the participants, and a small word about the future. First of all, the mission program, why we did it, of course, because of the COVID, the pandemic, and the travel ban, the borders were closed, and also because it was easy and when it goes fast, so it doesn't take 1 week or 2 weeks to travel, and also because we felt that there's a new region coming up rapidly, and we wanted to bring it under the attention of our companies. So we organized 3 half days, not full days, but 3 half days of virtual trade mission. And we did it also by Zoom with breakout rooms. And as speakers, we organized it together with Chinese experts, also present here, like Bart Horsten was one of the speakers, and Flemish and Chinese governments. We organized it, the whole virtual mission, in cooperation with our bilateral Chamber of Commerce, which is the Belgian Chinese Chamber of Commerce. They have a very strong operations presence in China, a very good presence here at the Chinese community, very good links with the Chinese embassy in Belgium. So a very nice and professional Chamber of Commerce to work with. The companies that were participating, there were companies that were looking to expand in China, and also companies who want to start doing business with China, export or investments. Especially also export, because Hainan is a region focusing on consumer goods. So, which is interesting for European companies to export to. And I'll explain you later on by the program how the partners. So I already explained Belgian Chinese Chamber of Commerce, BCCC, and also our Flemish government, which is the Flanders Investment and Trade. And from Chinese side, we had the cooperation of the Hainan Provincial Bureau of International Economic Development, which is crucial for your B2B matchmaking during the virtual mission, but also the content of the program, the seminars. So this is actually day 1. We organized a seminar, half a day, about the cross-border e-commerce. The legislation, operational, the commercial, and the financial aspects, also the marketing and the branding. And we had some testimonials of companies, but also from one of our experts, Bart Horsten, who has a flagship store on Tmall Global, Alibaba's cross-border e-commerce platform, as everybody knows. And the first and only well, actually, it's the first and only Belgian web shop dedicated at selling food and beverages brands directly to Chinese customers under the name Belgian Store. I like to make some promotion for this one. Okay, excuse me for that. And then the second day was completely and entirely focused on Hainan, the business climate there, the policies, the free trade port, the free trade zone, and also the next edition of the China International Consumer Products Expo, Hainan Expo it's called. So focused on consumer goods. And then we had a small video, a virtual tour of Hainan, and Q&A, and closing by the chairman of the Belgian Chinese Chamber. Day 3 was then focused on the B2B contacts with Chinese business partners in different time slots and through breakout rooms in Zoom. So that was the entire morning, which was not so as simple as it looks. The promotion, we used classical channels, the mailings, the social media, the newsletters, the partners that were implemented in the program, so like Flanders Investment Trades, also Bart Horsten via his newsletter. Personal contacts, we reached them all, and they also distributed for us. We also had a brochure, which I'll show you in a minute. And then we also sent out a press release to all the regional media. And that was actually a good one because they interviewed a participant of the virtual trade mission. And they announced, well, they made quite a large article in the national newspaper, the national edition even. So we got a lot of exposure, visibility, which was great for the chamber also, not only for reaching out to our companies, but also for the chamber. The participants were mostly SMEs. The sectors were food, logistics. Also, the port of Zeebrugge was one of the participants and the health sector. So this was the brochure, very short, about the 3 days mission. You see the 3 days, it was in March this year. And so you could register online through the website. And this is the just a small distract of the national newspaper. And you could also find the article online. So this was a Belgian chocolate company who was already doing business in China for a long time. And they were very much interested in Hainan, especially also in the free trade zone, the free trade port, and of course the Hainan Expo because of the consumer goods. So, and then we go to the advantages of this virtual trade mission. It was fast, of course. It was quite easy when you compare it to a full week of live trade mission. It's slightly easier and quicker than that one. It's also very focused because you've only three days, so 3 half days. So you have to be really focused and effective in your content. The speakers were also Chinese speakers, so because of the travel restrictions, you can still give the floor to Chinese speakers, which is great. And then we had also enough preparation time because we decided to do the virtual mission in December. We decided then to organize something, and then in March we launched it. In March we had this mission. So the B2B meetings. It's ideal to have a first contact virtually, and then follow up later on live. Of course, it depends on when we can travel again to China and back. So, but actually, it's a good step ahead, and for the first contact, it's ideal. It saves time, of course, saves cost, which is logic. There are no logistic issues like visa, travel time, taxis, and other expenses. And then it's also more effective concerning follow-up and business contacts. So the exchange of documents is simultaneous while they are having the B2B meeting, and which is actually very hands-on, very effective. The disadvantages are, however, are the power of the personal approach. So it's indeed different when you have a live conversation. Even here in the training, it's different. Everybody knows that, so I don't have to explain it. The nonverbal communication, etc., is also is something which gives a lot of information as well. So this is not something you don't have during virtual trade missions. There is no site visit possible. So when you go to China and you have this mission, and there's often the B2B contacts the meetings are taking place in the company itself on their site. So this is not possible. Then there's also a little room for, let's say, unexpected networking possibilities, loose business opportunities. So you have this very strict scheme program. Whereas when you are in China during a trade mission, you can meet other people outside your program, outside during receptions, when you go out in the evening. So those are network possibilities you don't have, which are let's say unexpected. It's also a preparation time. Although a preparation time for a live mission is much longer. The maximum capacity, so a virtual trade mission is also limited. Even live missions, but also virtual trade missions have their limitations, because when you do a B2B, and I think Ilaria will explain that as well, you cannot manage a very large group. It's quite intense. And also you have the large language barrier, which is live also, but of course, virtual, it's online, it's also an issue. And so you need interpreters, they need to be the connection has to be good. So these are some aspects you have to take into account, but okay. As an evaluation, we were lucky. Our work paid off. So we got lots of good feedback, and this was the feedback we got from our participants. So it's great to hear this, and especially because we were considering to organize it again. A total score of 83% is absolutely not bad. On the contrary, I would say. And so we did also, we have an evaluation report also we could send to the speakers. As in the future, we have more, we would like to organize more virtual missions by means of introduction. So before you go on a live mission, it's great to have a sort of 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days virtual mission. I don't think you have to make it longer than 3 days because that's already intensive enough. It's a good preparation when you are going live and visiting the country itself. So it's the use of better online tools, the online platform, which is we have to take into account because we used Zoom, but you have also other platforms which can be used. So you have to see what's working better and what's ideal for this type of format, for this sort of product. The countries the participants were interested in were South Korea, Japan, Thailand. You see them here, Russia, Balkan countries. So definitely interest of the participants for more virtual trade missions, which was also very nice to read and to hear. We made a small compilation movie. I will not show it now, but when you get the PowerPoint presentation, you can also look at the compilation movie for the promotion of future missions. We did it. So this is about it. I would say if there are any questions, please let me know. I stop share my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Petra, for this. And before going to Ilaria, I have a very quick question. And perhaps we can just merge both Q&A together. But why Hainan? Why Hainan and not any other location in China?
Well, we noticed that Hainan is growing very rapidly, and the Chinese government is wanting to build the largest free trade zone there, which is quite interesting for us European companies. They are also building the free trade port. And then there, of course, is the Hainan Expo, which is focused on West European consumer goods. Well, not only West European, just European consumer goods. They are also very much known for medical tourism. And as we have in our region, we have a lot of pharmaceutical companies and companies active in the health sector. So it was very obvious for us to highlight Hainan, although it's still in the beginning phase, I would say, but that was ideal to do it, to bring it under the attention via a virtual trade mission before you leave live, and it's still not possible. So I think it was a very good timing and a very good region to focus on at that point.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, that was my guess, but I just wanted to confirm if that was the approach. Ilaria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And from my side, while I prepare my screen, I would like to first of all, let me quickly move the gallery. First of all, thank the EU SME Centre for having me back in the family for just 1 day. It's very nice to be back. And as you mentioned already, and as Petra started already this discussion on how we've supported the SMEs in our network to approach the Chinese market. I would take it only from the perspective of B2B meetings. I have not yet dared to organize a trade mission online, but luckily Petra has, and now I will also have more ideas for our Estonian companies. But so today my presentation is mainly from perspective of online B2B matchmakings, and perhaps I will be shortly sharing what was the history, although pretty much we all know why, the history behind the decision of organizing virtual B2B matchmakings with local partners in China, how we did it. So what we did before, what we've learned from it, and obviously also what we did during the B2B, because a lot of coordination needs to happen, and also after the B2B matchmaking. This year, we already organized 2 online B2B matchmakings as Enterprise Estonia, the Asia trade agency, and we're planning the next one to happen in November. You already, Laura, introduced me. So just briefly, as I mentioned, I'm part of Enterprise Estonia, the trade agency of Enterprise Estonia, that it's mainly focusing on the Asian markets. Personally, I am taking care of the Chinese market with one colleague back in Estonia, but we also have experts that are covering other countries in Asia. Now, going quickly to the topic of today. The leitmotif, I believe, of today has been COVID and the difficulty of traveling to China. So if I had to put it simply, yes, this is why we moved towards the decision of organizing virtual matchmakings. However, if I have to think about back then, last year, when the crisis was starting, when rumors were coming from China that, hey, something is happening over there. Also us, we really didn't know what the situation was, what we were going to face, and where this new situation would have led us. So for this reason, we tried at the beginning to simply keep companies informed on the situation in China, continuing our work, our business as usual situation. But as the crisis approached, also Europe, and while we started to go in lockdown in Europe as well, then we, as trade promotion organization, we really became the main point of contact for our enterprises, for our businesses, to understand what was happening and what could potentially happen also to their businesses. So we immediately realized that we had to change our mode of working with our companies. So again, we are focusing on export, supporting companies to export to China in my case. And if on one side, I had to change completely the perspective of supporting companies instead to outsource some materials, for instance, because we had the period where we had the lack of protective devices in Europe, and a lot of companies were turning to China. So I was supporting a lot in this sense. But after a while, I said, okay, but my main purpose here is to support the companies to understand what's going on in China. Yes, but I have to help them to proceed with business, and to make sure that the companies, especially those that were at the beginning of their entry to China, to understand that, first of all, you have to be quite fast at adapting to what the Chinese market offered to you. So we tried to anticipate a little bit the game that the companies were supposed to play. We were hoping back then that it would be, in a relatively short amount of time, like in the relatively immediate future. So we supported them again with preparing them with the market access, really helping them one-to-one in reviewing their business strategy and trying to share as much positivity on China as possible. So we supported them to reimagine their strategy, but also to, when again, as Rossana said, we found ourselves not able to travel to China. Then we said, okay, how are the companies going to do business? How are the companies going to find contact partners? So we said, okay, we have to really think beyond what's now, what is the immediate. And we established internally a focus group where we really peaked on the market, the new trends that were emerging from the situation in China. If in Europe we were starting to close down, in China they were opening up slowly. Business entrepreneurs were starting to travel again around China. We were stuck there. So, okay, what's beyond the immediate? New opportunities have to blossom. So we decided to try to get rid of all the negativity that was coming from the news. And we put more pedal to the metal, organizing much more activities for the companies to help them to understand better the market. And these eventually led us to say, B2B matchmakings have to happen, because at the end of the day, companies, yes, they need to be prepared on the market, but they care a lot about their business context, obviously. So we created, within the focus team, we created a team that was only dedicated to organizing a B2B matchmaking session. We were coordinating on a weekly basis. This was even before communicating with the companies or with our counterpart in China. We had a Delta Force approach. We were all the bosses in the room. Each of us was the boss. Each of us knew what was the action that had to take. And we were mainly reporting on those actions. Of course, if we needed the support of the colleague, we would ask. Only after having established the team and clear tasks for the development of online B2B matchmaking, then we started to gather the interest from the Estonian companies to develop a group of companies that could indeed participate to the matchmaking session. And only after identifying the companies, we started also to select our counterparts. Discussing obviously what tool to use. Petra said she also used Zoom. We used Zoom as well. Later on, we've changed our platform. We were sharing information on the companies from both sides. And we were trying to make sure that, again, we had enough interpreters to try to bridge the two sides as much as possible. And of course, we were discussing a lot what was the coordination that we had to have in terms of agenda of the day, who was going to open, close the event, and how the follow-up would happen. Then only afterwards, we would commit to a date and inform all the companies. In this specific situation, then we tried to understand what was the participants' strengths, not only from the Estonian side, but also from the Chinese side, in coordination with our local partner. And then we prepared, only after understanding the background of each company, then we prepared the meetings timetable. We gave the companies the possibility of having 15 minutes one-to-one sessions. So we divided them into breakout rooms just during the B2B meeting. But again, what we were facing was a totally new service for us, because at that time we never really had developed anything that was virtual. Companies had always come to China. So we realized that, as Petra said, you do not have this human element while you organize a B2B meeting. So how to inform the companies on how to deal with talking through a screen. So we organized a training session for them. During the training session, we were mainly sharing a little bit of an overview of what the counterparts, in which areas the counterparts were operating with, how they had to engage with them during the online session, which kind of documents they had to prepare. And we were trying to support them with some adaptation to the market in terms, let's say, of names, for instance. Some names were very specific to the company. So we were trying to help them on finding the right Chinese name or the right way to communicate it. We did have a couple of hiccups while organizing all this. So I've listed here a couple of lessons that we've learned while doing it. And we always need to have a contingency plan for what it's going to happen while you are executing the event. If it fails for some technical issues, you need to make sure that you have a contingency plan before before actually starting the event. You need to check the B2B tool, especially if no one is familiar with it, and you have to make sure also about the Chinese companies that are participating. I just mentioned it. We had to verify the companies and to always be in communication with your teammates. Now, about the internal training, just very briefly, I would like to share what we were coaching, if I may use this word, the companies with. So we mainly try to express them how to share or present their company, really starting from general aspects and going to the particulars. So for instance, to avoid using town names, the same that we do not know a city in China. Of course, a lot of Chinese counterparts would not know where your city would be around Europe. We told them that it would be better to prepare materials in advance where you had, for instance, a presentation sharing all your sales points if you have already available, how to engage with the counterpart, the importance of managing the questions, to always be, on the positive side. Maybe you're not clear about something, but keep them engaged, say that you will follow up after the session. And we tried to inform that most probably the Chinese counterparts would ask for a WeChat account just to be quicker in the communication. And for this reason, we also suggested to prepare a WeChat account. Now, this was not mandatory, of course, and it depended on the company willingness to do it, but we just put it there as a best practice, let's say. Now, the main suggestion that was given is that they had to practice 1 day in advance because they had to fit all their discussions in a very short time. As I said, it was a 15 minutes one-to-one conversation with the counterparts. During the B2B session, we shared at the beginning as an introduction to the Chinese counterparts. We shared an introduction of Estonia and the products, what is the commercial exchange between China and Estonia, just to give them a little bit of a background, the Chinese company, a little bit of a background about who we are. And obviously, there were a lot of very practical things that we had to do with our own companies as well, to make them understand where the other companies were coming from. So again, also an introduction of the Chinese side, but also a reminder to be this preemptively, to be sharp on time. And as far as it concerned the team, we were managing all room procedures and executing the agenda. Now, this was, of course, the section where we learned more, because we had all team members involved, and you really have to stay committed during the whole process, keep track of each B2B matchmaking that it's going on, keep all communication channels open, whether it is with the team or with the client. Of course, companies might have any technical issues. Some companies perhaps are not able last minute to join, so really to be open at any time to communicate with your companies. Now, after the B2B, it was very important for us, again, as a trade organization, to ask for feedback. And what we found was that we had to do that right after the B2B matchmaking, just to grasp really the momentum of the event, and whether there were some disruption in the whole in a technical disruption the whole B2B meeting, then we had to reschedule them, and we had to do it soon after the meetings. So as I said, do not forget to do it until it's done again. So to follow the companies in every step, and to support them also in the follow-up session, because the first meeting is always the most important when expanding one's network. So it was important to really push on this aspect of saying follow up with your counterparts. And it is true, as Petra said, that you know, the human element was not there. So really the communication was had to be very specific in a very specific and restricted time frame, and you really had to make an impression through the screen. We noticed that the companies managed to do that, luckily, and it was appreciated, and increased a little bit the confidence in the organization as a whole. And some of the companies even managed to create some business deals afterwards. So this was in a nutshell what we organized as Enterprise Estonia. And I'm also available here for all the questions if there is any. And thank you very much again.
Thanks a lot, Ilaria, also for this insightful presentation. We have many questions from the audience. I guess this is a very interesting topic, and at this new format, there is no much information, and that is the reason why we wanted to invite you and Petra today. Perhaps I'm gonna follow a chronological order to be fair with everybody. So the first question is for Petra. So, well, this is actually talking about online B2B. So perhaps you can both jump into the answer if you want. How do people prepare themselves for online B2B meetings with Chinese counterpart? Do they have access to training, coaching to prepare their expectations? I know that Ilaria has touched upon this topic a little bit, but perhaps Petra, you can share your experience as well.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really give them a training ahead to prepare for this B2B session. So, but they were actually, I must say, they were very good prepared themselves, and they had their PowerPoint presentation documents ready. They were very flexible also because the connection was not always great, and sometimes not everybody showed up, so it's not that easy. But they showed really a lot of flexibility and understanding. And once everybody was on board in the meeting, it went fluently. Also with the interpreters, I must say, I was quite surprised. We didn't really give training before, so they were very independent in doing this. Yeah.
Will this relate as well, or this standpoint, to the level of preparation of the companies? Were they already kind of familiar with the market, or were they completely new to the Chinese market?
Well, we have a mixed audience, so there were people that never had done business with China. They were just starting, but he did fine. He was very well prepared, and he knew he was very focused. So no, I must say I was quite surprised as well. But there were companies that, of course, had already experience with doing business with Asia, but also with China. But then there were also startups even on China. So, but with the interpreter, it went fine.
Thank you very much, Petra. Another question relates to Ilaria, but I believe that Petra also could shed some light into this. Did you change your KPIs in any way when you found yourself in this situation? I assume that as a business support organization, you have some ideas of the activities you want to do and how this was impacted or shifted once the lockdown started.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we all have the KPIs, and at the beginning we were all panicking. Are we going to make our trade shows, for instance? Are we going to make it to the to any business contact trip that we had planned? We didn't really change the KPI. We found a way to execute the KPI. Obviously, what was called before a training, we then named it a webinar. But I guess that considering the difficulties that we were facing and the new situation, we all, at least internally in Enterprise Estonia, tried to be very flexible, especially with the terminology. And it's an external situation. It's nothing that we wanted inside. So it was understood also from higher ups, if I can say it in this way. And simply we changed the names from training to webinars or virtual B2B matchmaking, what was a contact trip. And we found, again, the solution to how to execute it.
Thank you very much. And in terms of the interest of the companies, did you see that because this was held in a different format from offline to online, did you find more interest from the audience as it requires less time to participate in this type of activities, or is there a conception that online formats do not work that well when working with China?
So the first thing that I would say is that Estonia as a nation is very digitally oriented. So luckily, at least from this aspect, we didn't really have any trouble in gathering the interest from the companies. Of course, they were a little bit skeptical to do it because they were afraid that, okay, maybe the Chinese side is not willing to talk to us behind the screen. How do I actually make sure that they have an interest in my product? So this is where it was really important for us to speak with the Chinese side as well, to make them understand what is Estonia, what were the products, and luckily it went well. But at the beginning, yes, I would say that they were a little bit, uncertain that it would a virtual or a digital tool or event would really serve the purpose of making contacts.
Thank you. This links actually with a question we have from the audience. This is actually partially replied, but this person wants to know a little bit more on if you somehow compensated the lack of socializing that happens when you have people traveling to China for both trade missions and B2B.
The socialization part, I think that happened probably a little bit at the beginning, let's say. We tried to make the audience engage a little bit, but mostly what happened was that while we had breakout rooms for some of the companies, we still had the main room of Zoom that was open. And these helped a lot with just small chit chats, but you cannot really replace the feeling of having a good discussion of, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes at the trade event on site, I mean, live, and perhaps to decide to go to a dinner, as Petra was saying. So it was a bit of effort from both sides in terms of socializing.
I have a question from my side before I jump into the other one. You mentioned that your B2B lasted for 15 minutes each. I'm not sure in the case of Petra, because the trade mission to Hainan was also a B2B. Perhaps she can also share her experience. Why 15 minutes? Also, because here in Europe, we also sifted sometime the international events we participated in, and you can see actually different formats, 15, half an hour, 45 minutes. Is there a reasoning behind these 15 minutes?
Actually, yes. We thought that, it was the first meeting for the two sides. The Chinese side is not able to see the product. The Estonian side is not really able to show the products. So what you want to do is to really just flash them with what you have and get their interest. And to be able not to lose their attention, then we decided, okay, we keep it in a short frame. 15 minutes should serve the purpose of introducing the company and to engage with the counterpart and understand what they would like to receive from you. So this is what we thought.
We had not 15 minutes, but 40 minutes, 40, which seems very long, but we just took into account that the meeting does not always start on time, or that the business partner from the other side is not on time, or some things can happen. So we provided just a slot of 40 minutes to make sure that of those 40 minutes, there was an essential 30 or 20 minutes very focused on getting to know each other. And it was also indeed, as Ilaria says, it was the first meeting for all of them. So you wanted to make it as focused as possible. And we also provided after each B2B session a break of 20 minutes, just for the simple reason that it changed the business partners of the other side of China side are coming out of the Zoom session. So there's also a time difference, and so we had to take everything into account. And we wanted to give enough space, enough room, and not, if not, you just risk the chance to completely overrule the scheme, and it's going to be a mess. So we wanted to have enough margin, as I would say, if you know what I mean. So reserve space, reserve time. So that's why we and it went fine. I mean, we didn't got any reaction on the session was taking too long, because when their meeting was done, they just stopped and they came back from the breakout room to the plenary room. So that was the main room. So that was actually, it went smoothly.
Thank you very much. And there's also a question for both of you. How many people worked on the B2B mission, well, in both trade mission and B2B matchmaking event? And this person also is asking whether you can share some insights on whether these people were based in China or here in Europe.
Well, from Belgian side, I can say we were working with 3 people on the trade mission, which is a lot, I must admit. And from Chinese side, I presume there were like 2 people, depending really on when it was coming to when you're talking about the B2B sessions, it was 1 or 2 people really focused on that. So it's quite labor intensive, I must admit, but the feedback we got and the score we had, the evaluation score, we were really pleased with it. And we, in the end, it's quite hectic, and it's very, it takes a lot of energy to manage all that online. But yeah, it's fulfilling, because afterwards, when you get the rewards of the companies, then you know you did a good job. So that's the most important issue, of course.
Yeah, I totally agree with Petra. I think that, well, first of all, we were also 3 on the Estonian side. Personally, I was in China and 2 colleagues in Tallinn, and we had 3 people from the Chinese side plus the interpreters during the session. But again, it was a lot of work to do, a lot of coordination, especially on the day of the event. But in the end, what pays off is the company feedback, and it went well, and we're still here to tell about it and to organize the next one. So
Indeed, looking forward to see the next one. There is a last question, perhaps we can address. Somebody from the Netherlands mentions or shares that they can see the company is getting tired of the digital format for both meetings, webinars, and any other kind of activities. Do you have any tips to share in terms of how we can stimulate the participation?
It's a very interesting question, I would say. I mean, from my side, the easy thing is that, given the fact that I am based in Beijing, I try to trigger them with the fact that if they have a meeting and their meeting goes well, then I am also going to meet the counterpart and you know, try to introduce a little bit more about the company. But I mean, I guess that it's mostly about try to, if they are ready, of course, to make the step towards the Chinese market, they should already be committed, and they should already have, you know, this energy to do the virtual sessions, whatever it is, trade mission or B2B matchmaking. But yeah, I mean, mine is a very personal point of view. So I will not really have a recipe for that.
Well, maybe from my side, I can say that we, in general, not only for this format, for this virtual trade mission, we try to make it as attractive as possible by implementing breaks, which we didn't do in this format for China, but sometimes we implement breaks with physical, with live exercises, just to make the break a little bit more fun. So somebody is doing some fitness exercises during like the break, so you can follow. Or something else we do is that we send the participants gadgets. For example, when we organize a meeting about customs, and it's normally taking place at a company, which we couldn't do because of the COVID, we presented a video about the company, and at the same time they received the product of the company in advance at their homes, their personal homes. So we send out beer, we send out chocolates, different products, just to make it a little bit more, you know, fun and attractive to participate in business clubs, in learning, in long-term, in coaching programs. When it's more than one day, when it's more than one session, you can do that just to make it more, you know, attractive. That's something. There are also companies here in Belgium specialized in how to entertain your audience during breaks. Even it's a startup company from somebody who is working for a Chamber of Commerce. Even so, I just wanted to tell you that I want to share this. You can't, of course, do this all the time and for every product, but you know, there are possibilities.
Yeah.
Indeed. We have also noticed that, or at least the feedback we had collected from different SMEs in Europe, is that one of the reasons why they are tired of this online format is that they are missing the networking part. So one of the things we are trying to implement at the EU SME Centre, that perhaps this could add into your feedbacks, is to try to set up hybrid events where at least the people from the chamber or from the business support organization could gather the audience, although the speaker or the expert might be joining from China. But this could allow to have both the networking and the expertise and the training at the same time. Of course, it's not the same as going to Shanghai or Beijing and meeting in person with these contacts or with the experts, but somehow we safeguard this networking part that is so important.
I might pick on your ideas.
Happy to share them. The time is up, but thank you very much, Petra and Ilaria. It's always wonderful working with you. I hope to see you in the next activities we're organizing together.